I know these videos are late, and I really do apologize, but yesterday just didn't really work the way I wanted to, and today it's just not been my day. All right, I had a hard time sleeping last night. I had to fight a headache for the past few hours, so I apologize for these reviews being late, but I only hope I can make it worth it to you. And let's start. My stinky camera can stop being an a. And let's start with the final big franchise of Legends of Literature. What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Welcome back to Animation, Mr. for anything and everything animation. And in this video, we will be taking a look at the final big franchise of our second marathon. With the Lord of the Rings series, and we're doing it all as just one video because I am falling really far behind, and I need to get these done, no matter how crappy I may feel. And then, not to mention, I still have to watch 3 new movies as soon as I'm done getting out all these other reviews. So, please bear with me here, and I apologize if I may sound a bit disheartened or anything like that. And it's not because of the movies themselves. In fact, pretty much all the movies I have to review for you today, outside of the first time watches I still need to do, is pretty positive. And I'm just going to start by saying that this is a great trilogy of movies, and it's just as great as you've heard, and it earned every single Academy Award that it won during its run. I will not be nearly as forgiving to the Hobbit trilogy, because that trilogy, in my opinion, is an absolute mess, but that's a discussion for another time. For now, let's talk about the Lord of the Rings movies. Let's start with Fellowship of the Ring. This is the start of this entire series. It came out in 2002, 2003, something like that, somewhere around the same time as Sorcerer's Stone did. And this is a great start to the series, but at the same time, I do think Sorcerer's Stone is better. Let me explain why in my very quick review I have here up on my Facebook. A great start to the trilogy that does an amazing job with world building and a wide range of characters, but it's pretty long at 3 hours, which does hurt the rewatchability. And the second act really drags pacing-wise. Like, seriously, the second act of this movie drags like a friggin' rock. Still more than worth your time, though, if you somehow still haven't seen it yet. I do think Sorcerer's Stone is better, but it's just personal preference. Yeah, the world building is this first movie's strongest aspect. It does a great job with the world building. It introduces you to the lore right away. The acting is fantastic from a very stacked cast. You have good action. You have some amazing music, arguably some of the best in all of film history. And you have a great story written by J.R.R. Tolkien. And they did a great job adapting said source material into film format. Arguably even better than Harry Potter, depending on who you ask. But this is pretty much the quintessential medieval fantasy movie, and I'm pretty sure you've already seen it. I'm pretty sure a dozen of you have pretty much already known how great this movie is, but for those of you that haven't, strong 8 out of 10. Definitely check this one out if you haven't already. Moving on to its sequel, The Two Towers. This one I wasn't really kind to when I first saw it, and when some people said it was their favorite of the trilogy, I didn't really understand it. Watching it again, though, because it took me 12 hours to watch all 3 of these movies back to back to back yesterday, which is another one of the reasons why you didn't really get a video yesterday either. So, please forgive me for that. But The Two Towers, now that I've watched it again, it's still a great film. I do think it's better than Fellowship and a fantastic movie in its own right, but it still has the pacing problem. Continues the excellent world building of the original while also doing a fantastic job expanding upon it as well. Add on the introduction of Gollum into the main story as a main character, and some outstanding production value, including some of the best CGI ever implemented since Jurassic Park. And you have a great sequel, though the runtime is still an issue. Yeah, the runtime of these movies is obnoxious. Like, they do a great job utilizing it, but it's obnoxious and hurts the rewatchability. Then finally, let's talk about Return of the King. This is the big finale. This is the big ending to the entire trilogy, and it was so big they had to make it 4 hours long. Yeah, I'm not joking. It's 4 hours long. And they did an amazing job pretty much fixing all the issues I had with Fellowship and Two Towers and putting it all together into one big movie. Then you had the Army of the Dead stuff. You had the fact that this is the great big final battle. And it's only gotten better every single time I watch it. It is, in my opinion, the textbook example of how to perfectly conclude your franchise. The drawn-out ending is literally its only issue. It earned all 11 Academy Awards it won in the fantasy epic film of all history. I fucked that up, I'm sorry. This is pretty much the epic fantasy movie in all of film and cinematic history. Because this movie is epic. This movie does feel conclusive. It does do a great job giving a satisfying conclusion to what they built up over the past two movies. Now we're seeing it all finally come to a conclusion. My only issue with this movie is that the ending is almost a whole half hour. That is obnoxious. That's obnoxious. But outside of that, it's pretty much everything you love about the first two movies added in with that epic final war. So, because of that, the final verdict for Return of the King is an easy 10 out of 10. And it might also help because it focuses on Aragorn, and he's my favorite character. Yep, that's it. If I had to give an overall to all three of these movies, I would probably say about 8.5 out of 10. I do think Harry Potter's better, but it's just because of a personal preference thing. I didn't watch these until a bit later in my life, whereas with Harry Potter, that's a piece of my childhood that I grew up with along with the characters of those movies, so I have more attachment to them. But this is still an amazing trilogy of movies. It has earned every single bit of its critical praise that it has been given. But please do not ask me to watch the 4-hour-long extended cuts of the first two movies, or the near 5-hour-long cut of the last one. 12 hours is enough, guys. I need to keep my sanity. But definitely check these movies out if you haven't already. They're the quintessential fantasy film. They're some of the best adaptations of any source material in all of film history. And they're just as great as you've heard, if not even better. It really just depends on who you ask. In my opinion, all three of them were great. It's just that I think Return of the King is the best one. Personal bias thing, I guess. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm surprised I was able to squeeze this into a less than 10-minute video. That's crazy. But, yep. That's going to conclude our final big franchise, but not our final franchise, because we do have one last series to look at. And by series, I mean it's only 2 movies, but it still technically counts as a franchise, so it'll be the last one we look at, and then from there on in, everything will be one-offs. So, I'll see you guys next time when we take a look at a bona fide classic with The Shining.